Right, hello, good morning, good evening, and good night. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic because in today's video, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about QQQY, which is the Defiance Nasdaq 100 Enhanced Option Income Strategy ETF. The reason being is because I actually have QQQY in my portfolio right now. Currently, I have about 10 shares at an average share price of $19.64. And what we're going to do in this video is I'm going to tell you guys about my position. I'm going to tell you about how not only the Nasdaq composite, how it's performed, QQQY as a whole, how the ETF has performed, what I think about the ETF QQQY with its 65% dividend yield. And I'm also going to tell you guys if I'm going to be buying any more and the reasons why I bought it. And the reason actually ties into TSOY. It kind of ties in a clip as well, but we're going to get into all that in this video. So you guys absolutely delivered in the last video. In this video right here, I said, we're sleeping at 3,380 subscribers while we gained 19 subscribers in a span of one day. So thank you to everyone who subscribed. We're currently one subscriber away. So if you want to see this go to a 3-4, absolutely change that. 3,400 subscribers. But without further ado, let's get into this video right here. So we're talking about QQQY. It's a Defiance Nasdaq 100 Advanced Option Income Strategy ETF. They basically write cover calls on the Nasdaq and the Nasdaq Composite or the Nasdaq 100. Over the long term, it's had a really good track record of appreciating over time. Now, over the past 5 years, you can see that during COVID, just like the Dow Jones, it had a pretty significant sell-off, went down to about 11,000, just under 11,000, and over the past year has had a great rebound from then. See, 10,500 all the way back up to about 14,000. Now, currently, we're approaching almost like a new high stage. So the new high for the Nasdaq would be about $14,350. We're currently only about $100 away from that, and that could potentially also translate to higher returns for QQQY because QQQY tracks the Nasdaq. And when we're looking at this, I actually purchased my shares. I purchased my 10 shares of QQQY, which I'm actually down about 7% in terms of the capital appreciation, not including the dividends, because I bought it at about $19.64. Going back to when I bought it right before the ex-dividend date. So I bought it right on this date here, $19.66. You can see right there. Then QQQY paid out its dividend, dropped down at $18.50. It went up a little bit, but as you could tell, on September 29th, when I bought it, the Nasdaq was sitting roughly at about $13,200, right? It had a little bit of a time of appreciation all the way to October 12th. So if we go here, this was the appreciation that QQQY seen. And then the Nasdaq had a pretty steep sell-off, losing about 10% or so, I would say. And for an index, or even more, 10 to 15% for an index, that's a pretty significant sell-off. And during this period, so QQQY actually paid out a dividend. You can see it went from about $19 or so all the way down to about $17.50. Really, with that dividend cut excluded, you can see about 70 cents or so. So QQQY actually held up really good in that downtrend. Now, currently, the Nasdaq has gone through a pretty significant uptrend, and QQQY hasn't totally captured all of this just due to the fact that it hasn't appreciated as much as the Nasdaq. The one thing that I have noticed while I've been holding my shares of QQQY is that it's kind of been underperforming on the upside. It doesn't necessarily track it doesn't necessarily track the Nasdaq percent to percent. It does kind of appreciate it, and it does tend to be in the green days when the Nasdaq's in the green, and obviously the red days when the Nasdaq is in the red. But you can see the Nasdaq has gone up about 15%, and QQQY has only gone up about maybe 5% or so. So QQQY, although it's paying these massive 60% dividends, it hasn't necessarily absolutely tracked super closely to the Nasdaq. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But am I happy with my 10 shares? I am. And the reason why I actually bought QQQY is because it's really nice to reinvest back into TSOY, for an example. And I'm going to show you that exactly right now. So I actually received these two dividends, so $1 and $1.10 dividend from QQQY. Now QQQY, if you see the ex-dividend, roughly about the second or the first of every single month, and it pays about the fifth or the sixth of every single month. Now, when I go to Tesla's payout, you can see their ex-dividend is about the 8th, the 6th, something about there. So if I'm able to get QQQY's dividend on the 5th or the 6th, I could then reinvest it back into TSOY. Now, we are a channel that's based on high dividends. QQQY, obviously, no objection to that with 65% dividend, right? But the fact that it was so convenient how it's payable and then it correlates directly to the ex-dividend date of TSOY, that was kind of my main purchase going off of for QQQY, and the fact that it does track the Nasdaq 100, which I love. Any kind of cover call ETF which tracks an underlying index, that tends to make it a lot less volatile, and you can see that in, for example, TSOY, where TSOY tracks Tesla. TSOY is a lot more volatile, and it's actually lost about 40% of its kind of share price value in the past 6 months or so. But QQQY has been holding well due to the fact its underlying asset has been holding well, and currently I'm actually pretty happy with my position. I'm probably up about 3 to 5% or so just with the dividends being paid out. I definitely got paid out more than the equity loss that I have here, which is about $13 or so. And so currently I'm happy with my shares of QQQY. Am I going to be buying any more at the current time period? I will not. The reason being is because looking at the underlying asset, the Nasdaq, over the past 6 months, you could see, sure, it's approaching near its kind of 6-month high. But the thing is, I want to buy at these lows here. I want to buy when it's at 12,500. I want to buy here when it's at 11,000 or 10,000. That's going to give us a great price on QQQY. I really focused not only for QQQY, but for the yield max investments such as TSOY. I focused on buying at these dips and these low points just due to the fact that they give much better returns with the current dividend yields that are roughly like 50 to 60% or so. So if the Nasdaq does have a downturn, once again, I will be looking to buy in periods of the downturn, and I will let you guys know when I do that. So I'm not currently buying any more QQQY. I'm just holding my shares, and I'm collecting the awesome dividends from it. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video, just a little video on the Defiance Nasdaq 100 Advanced Options Income ETF, and how I like it because it plays well with Tesla, with their payable date and TSOY's ex-dividend date. It's honestly held up pretty great for me. 65% dividend. Obviously, you know what, these funds are becoming a little more popular, and they are still very risky, so you do have to keep an eye on them, but they're definitely fun to receive the awesome dividends, and so far it's held up well for me. So if you guys did enjoy this video, please do remember to subscribe. Let's get us over this 3,400 subscriber marker. If you do so, that'd be fantastic. Like this video if you guys did enjoy or brought you any kind of new information or value around QQQY, an ETF you might be interested in. And yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Please stick around, and I will see you guys in the next one.